and welcome to the Weekend Jazz Update with Cecile Silva. On today's episode of the Jazz Update, Cecile McLorin Salvant, a vocalist, composer and visual artist. Critic Jesse Norman once described her as a unique voice supported by an intelligence and full-fledged musicality which lights up every note she sings. She has a very unique style based on playing a character, telling a story through her songs. Also, Salvant is famous for her songs. She typically unearths lesser-known jazz classics from the early days of jazz and intertwines them with her own powerful retelling of the stories inherent in the music. She loves covering dramatic songs, especially ones with unexpected twists and humor. She rose to fame in 2010 when she won the Thelonious Monk Jazz Competition at the age of 21. Ever since, she's won an iconic 3 Grammy Awards for her 6 albums to date. For Best Jazz Vocal Album for The Window, Dreams and Daggers and For One to Love. She was also nominated for a Grammy in 2014 for her album Woman Child. In 2022, she received another 2 Grammy nominations for her album Ghost Song. The album also went on to win numerous other awards. So that was some insight into the life and times and best hits of Cecile McLorin Salvant. Also coming up, some trending festival, album news and more. Stay tuned to the Weekend Jazz Update with Cecile Silva. We'll be right back after some music. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Cecile Silva. Today on the Jazz Update, Cecile McLorin Salvant. During this hour, we're going to be talking about her biography. So, Cecile McLorin Salvant was born and raised in Florida. She started out taking piano classes at age 5. Then at age 8, she started singing with the Miami Choral Society. She developed an interest in classical singing early on, started taking up training with the University of Miami. In 2007, she took up studying law in France. That's why she also started studying classical and baroque voice at the Darius Milhaud Conservatory. In France, she also started developing her skills at improvisation, instrumentals and vocal techniques that dated back to the early 20th century. She also joined her first band while in France. In 2009, she recorded her debut album, her first album Cecile, alongside the Jean-Francois Bonnel's Paris Quintet. 1 year later, she won the Thelonious Monk Jazz Competition. Cecile developed a style that's woven around unique interaction of lesser-heard and vintage hits. Her style of delivery is theatrical and larger than life. She also composes in many languages, French, English and Spanish. She toured and performed at concerts around the world, alongside other jazz greats like Rodney Whittaker, Dan Nimmer and more. Salvant's won an iconic 3 Grammy Awards for her 6 albums to date, for Best Jazz Vocal Album for The Window, Dreams and Daggers and For One to Love. She was also nominated for a Grammy in 2014 for her album Woman Child. In 2020, she won the Doris Duke Artist Award. In 2022, she received another 2 Grammy nominations for her album Ghost Song. The album also went on to win her numerous other awards. Another iconic album, Melusine, a musical retelling of a folk legend dating back to the 12th century. The album is sung in several different languages and consists of vintage songs that are taken from over several centuries. Her latest work is a musical called Ogress that blends jazz, baroque and country music. Salvant composed the narrative, the lyrics and the music. The musical is performed as an orchestral of multi-instrumentalists, and it's based on philosophical themes like ecology, diaspora, cycles of life and so forth. Salvant is also a passionate visual artist. Some of her best artworks are on display in the Picture Room in Brooklyn. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Cecile Silva. On this week's episode, Cecile McLorin Salvant, her life and times and best hits. Now it's time for some trending festival news. Singer-songwriter Anthony Area is performing at a concert on September 29th at Sky Vault, New York City. Anthony first came to the spotlight after his iconic performance on The Voice on NBC alongside Adam Levine in 2018. He has since released 4 albums. His latest album is called As It Turns Out. So in the upcoming concert, Anthony will be performing alongside poet Robert Ford, also known as the Wall Street Poet. They met each other during a chance encounter at Chelsea Hotel. Turns out they had shared interests like baseball and music, and the two began partnering on the music scene. So Anthony is a resident of the West Coast and is now bringing his music to New York City. The concert is to be a private event and there's limited seating. For tickets and for more information, please visit www.anthonyarea.com. So that was some trending festival news, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Cecile Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of Cecile McLorin Salvant's best albums of all time. Stay tuned. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Cecile Silva. On this week's episode, Cecile McLorin Salvant, her life and times and best hits, and during this hour, we're going to be talking about some of her albums. The first album is called The Window, released in 2018. This one's a compilation of studio and live performances, featuring a series of iconic performances between Salvant and pianist Sullivan Fortner. She brings a passionate delivery to each of the tracks, from classics like Buddy Johnson's Ever Since the One I Love's Been Gone, to an enchanting original composition called A Cliff. There's also tracks that are nostalgic like Stevie Wonder's Visions and Doris Kamey's Obsession, a very uplifting, engaging album. The next album is called Dreams and Daggers, released in 2017. This one's an album compilation taken from a live performance at the Village Vanguard in New York. The album indicates how she has grown as a performer over the years. Her delivery on the tracks is fresh and soulful. Most of the tracks are just standards. There's also a few of her own compositions here. The tracks blend piano, bass, percussion and her own enchanting vocals. The album went on to win her a Grammy nomination and a Grammy Award for Best Jazz Vocal Album. And an album called Cecile released in 2010. This was a debut album. The album was released shortly after she won first place at the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Competition and contains a compilation of jazz classics interpreted in her unique style. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashandi Silva. On this week's episode, Cecile McLorin Salvant, her biography and best hits. And during this hour, we're going to be talking about some of her best albums of all time. The first album is called The Window, released in 2018 on the Mac Avenue label. So Cecile McLorin Salvant is primarily a jazz singer, and yet the songs in this album are more theatrical than the spontaneousness that characterizes jazz singing. The songs are mainly renditions of love songs, themed on the complexities of love. The songs are ranged from high-end cabaret songs to theatrical songs to songs from the Great American Songbook. And Salvant is in many ways an actress. Actors are dependent on their roles, and the song itself is the role that Salvant immerses herself in. Her compilation of songs blend familiar songs and obscure ones. Alec Wilder's Trouble is a Man plays out like a thoughtful poem. Wild is Love is a very complex song that was popularized by Nat King Cole. Ever Since the One I Love Been's Gone is a dramatic theatrical piece. Another jazz classic, Jimmy Roll's The Peacocks, performed as a slow, long-drawn whisper. The compilation is mainly duets, McLorin singing complemented by Sullivan Fortner's piano playing. His playing ranges from dynamic crescendos to rhapsodic flourishes. Overall, a great Salvant album. Dreams and Daggers is the next album. This one was released in 2017 on Mac Avenue Records. So Salvant's music is typically a blend of old school music and present day themes. This is one example. In this album, she reimagines the works of popular classics by Rodgers and Hart for modern audiences. The album takes us back to a simpler time when just a voice with acoustic accompaniment would enthrall crowds. This one came on top of her third Grammy-winning album For One to Love and takes us deeper into the material that she was famous for. A very groundbreaking style of performing. The tracks explore love in all its forms and combine jazz standards with original compositions. A Billie Holiday classic, You're My Thrill, portrays love as abundant, and the background video embodies this with a display of bountifulness in the natural world, vegetables, exotic fruits and so forth. She portrays this song very dramatically. The track You're My Boy shows us her talent at reinterpreting a song. Pianist Aaron Deal establishes a dark mood with his piano playing, which contrasts magically against the lyrics which are about infatuation. Salvant also incorporates original compositions on the set list. She ponders the concept of love on songs like Mo and the Worm, her own ideas on the mysteries of romance. So this album is all about the spectrum of love, from yearning and infatuation to heartache and wistfulness. The album went on to win her a Grammy Award for Best Jazz Vocal Album, also a Grammy nomination. And an album called Cecile released in 2010. This was Cecile McLorin Salvant's debut album, the one that won her first place at the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Vocals Competition in 2010. In this album, we see her backed by the Jean-Francois Bonnell Paris Quintet. It came shortly before her Grammy Award-winning album Woman Child, released 2 years later. The album was a foretaste of things to come. It's a very swinging up-tempo album and contains both jazz classics and lesser-known hits. So that was some insight into some of Cecile McLorin's best albums, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashandi Silva. And welcome back to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashandi Silva. On this week's episode, Cecile McLorin Salvant, her life and times and best albums. Now it's time for some trending album news. Juliet Kelly is a London-based singer-songwriter who's thrilled the jazz world with her compositions and enchanting vocals. She's just released an album called Synesthesia. Synesthesia is a special condition where sensory perceptions cross over, like the ability to taste sounds or hear colors. Approximately 4% of the world's population have this condition. Singer Juliet Kelly recently found out that she was among this group of people, and that propelled her to create an album based on the theme of synesthesia, the connection between music and color. So this album is called Color Coded and consists of 4 songs. Love's a Mystery, Here With You, Close Your Eyes, and A Brighter Future. Each track is themed on a particular color: purple, yellow, white, and gold. The songs are guitar and vocal duets showcasing her own captivating vocals supplemented by guitar music. You can purchase the album for £5 online. For more information, please visit www.julietkelly.com. So that was some trending album news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashandi Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of Cecile McLorin Salvant's best albums of all time. Stay tuned.